If everybody could sit down, we're going to start again with Zerto.
All right, thanks. Hello, everybody. Wait. Thanks for answering. Okay, we got one person paying attention. So my name's Shannon Snowden. I'm with Zerto. I like to start out these things with a little positive reinforcement for the audience. So let's go get it, folks. The other thing I'm going to talk about today is... Yeah. So one thing I want to talk about today is observing things and then maybe planning for the future appropriately. Which brings me to tattoos. Who's got a tattoo in here? So, okay, so this is interesting. 40% of U.S. adults 18 to 20 have at least one tattoo. And we see that in here with a few folks already. So when you're thinking about data, it's spreading, it continues to grow. It's going everywhere, and it's also landing on a lot of different spots. So if you can read some of these, they're all misspelled. So if you want to look at these later, one of my favorites is "What didn't kill me made me stronger," and "swift and dumb" in Chinese. And then Farrah's favorite when she saw this was up in the top is Tracy, and then a void. So don't worry, it's get better. So why are things such as data spreading out, going everywhere? I want to talk about what are some of the contributing factors. And we have sort of a unique view of it because at Zerto we're doing disaster recovery, but we're also doing replication, and I'll introduce some other things that we're doing and how we do it to a lot of different platforms. So we're seeing this trend from our production customers that are 18 months ago or 2 years ago, if you ask them, would you ever put your data on a cloud, public, private, whatever, the answer would be no, most likely. In that span of time, we're seeing them say, it's part of our strategy. We're just going that way. And I know the theme of this conference is looking at what's coming next, the strategies and sort of the disruptive technologies. But cloud is sort of entering into a phase that is becoming less and less disruptive. So here's a couple of factors that we see why. They're becoming, more than ever, a reputation for reliability. So I saw an ESG study that looked at customers actually running in production on some sort of cloud. Could be managed, could be public, and they felt that their data was actually more secure. And the reason why they thought it was more secure, if you start thinking about what the provider is providing, they're not looking at just one vertical, they're looking at multiple verticals that they're trying to support. So they wind up supporting a security profile that fits a lot of different vendors or a lot of different industries, a lot of different government requirements. They have people that look into that and live with it. And so they, in fact, present a more secure environment for overall for customers. And customers are starting to feel that. So that's one thing. The reliability is, in fact, good enough. We had a customer that needed a cloud strategy. And with the way Zerto works, and I'll get a little bit more detail on that, what we do, but we give them the ability to keep data on-premise, going between two on-premise sites, but we also give them the ability to explore, to go to the cloud. And DR is a perfect entry point into exploring other solutions such as cloud, because the way that we do it is completely non-disruptive to production. And a lot of people think of DR as an insurance policy. So you may never have to exercise it, and where we're completely non-disruptive to the production environment, they feel it's a really good place to dip their toe in the water to see if cloud is right for them. So we give them a way to try it, like it or hate it. Most of them like it, and to stay there. So we're in a unique position to see I thought Nigel's the show of hands of data in production on the public cloud was really interesting. You know, if you did that show of hands, what, a year or so ago, it would have been a lot less people. The reality is here, clouds are becoming much more reliable. People are seeing them as much more reliable, and it's almost a snowball effect of reliability, and it's becoming an option for the enterprise data center. They're starting to look at it as, this is just another option for us to use. The other thing is mergers and acquisitions. So the M&A that's going on starts creating this feeling of instability, or maybe I just bought a bunch of stuff that's not going to be around in the next, once they normalize all the mergers and acquisitions, all the different hardware pieces. So we're seeing sort of the risk-averse manager traditionally that would have went, hey, nobody ever gets fired for buying whatever hardware vendor. They're starting to think about, well, the stability is actually in this nebulous service. I just want this SLA. I just want this to exist. And now I can start looking at the cloud service providers are starting to take on more and more of that role of being the traditional one-stop shop hardware vendor. Again, Nigel's presentation was showing how much you can just stand up an infrastructure so quickly, so reliably, repeated over and over. It's something that enterprises simply can't ignore anymore. And when they're starting to look for stability, they're starting to really focus on, as a true option, clouds, and managed clouds, public clouds, what have you. Just a quick view here of just mergers and acquisitions increase the complexity of a product line. So you're adding in a bunch of different things, and hopefully things work out. But as a manager, you just really are looking for simplicity. So that's where Zerto comes in. We make it better. And how we make it better is we see cat people. So some of you have seen the next few slides, but this was a request from Farrah, so I added these slides in. This is the Zerto Cloud Continuity Platform. This is the concept of the Cloud Continuity Platform, is to look at the different pieces, the production workloads, managed services, public, next gen, when we start talking about Dockers, those type of things, and software as a service. Anything that you're consuming, you still ultimately are responsible for protecting it. That's your responsibility. So we came up with the concept of Cloud Continuity Platform, so let me explain what that does. Only I want to use animals because, you know, they're nicer for the most part. So think of these service animals. You know, these guys are doing their job, and notice what they are. They're dogs. So dogs are, you know, that guy's opened the dryer for you, and you can train a dog to go get a beer for you, right? So what we want to do is use these dogs and make a data protection dog sled. Have them, we can move the data from one point to another. We can federate the data, but we are in control of it using the Cloud Continuity Platform. Now, one thing we do realize is that we're not working with dogs, because each of these entities are much more like another animal that you may have in your environment. It's more like a cat, because they all have their own self-interest, and they're not necessarily really wanting to play well with others. And so that's where Zerto comes in. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to overlay, create this Cloud Continuity platform to create a cat federation, essentially. So we want to federate these things. We work with those end pieces, and we do the, we work with whatever the management infrastructure is, and we replicate the data. We allow you to do full orchestration non-disruptively across all of these different platforms, okay? So really what we're trying to do is get cats to act like dogs, and we overlay it and get you working between totally dissimilar environments. Okay, a little bit deeper on how we do that. So putting action into theory, we allow you to go between vCenter, Hyper-V. So that's cross-platform there on the hypervisors themselves. We'll be adding in more hypervisors. You can get different use cases. So if you have a blended Hyper-V, VMware, going to a VMware environment, you certainly can do that. We have over 200 cloud service providers. So if you think about that, that's pretty amazing that over a period of just a couple of years, you go from 0 to 200. Why is that? I'll show you the architecture in a second, but it all comes down to this federation idea of the cloud service providers are able to use our technology in a way that it frees them up from having to care what the customer has on site, on premise. It's that federation idea of whatever you have, we can use it, we can manage it, we can work with it. And then the bottom one there is DR as a service to AWS. So that was an important milestone in our version 4.0 product. We did two things. We added in Hyper-V support, we added in AWS, which shows you that the cloud continuity platform is alive and well, and it's been in production for almost a year now. And we have customers that the conversations around the number 4 there, the public cloud, have been pretty remarkable. The industries that we're seeing looking at going to public cloud. Industries you wouldn't think of, healthcare for one. Financials, they're looking at using public cloud resources because of the efficiency and what they feel is secure. And we're sort of on the front end of it because of the DR, as I spoke about, that they can try it and see whatever blend of this works for them. And we'll keep adding in more things. We've got some stuff coming up in this year that will add even more capability to this cloud continuity platform.
So if you're looking at healthcare, what are they putting into the cloud?
A lot of their archiving, a lot of the data that they just have to keep forever. That's a good place to put it, right? Because it's an efficient way to store it. Others is be more toward their managed cloud service providers. They provide an infrastructure that is completely secure to them, and we have some of the healthcare applications are just using a hosted, managed environment that they in turn will sell to smaller hospitals and different hospitals and things. So it's this whole some of the most precious data you would think are showing up in clouds. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Here's a bit how we work. Here's why we're so simple. We're the red pieces. We're a simple install in your production site. We've got the replication appliances. This interfaces with whatever the Zerto Virtual Manager, whatever the management infrastructure is. If it's vCenter, it could be SCVMM. With AWS, it'd be the APIs, just name your platform. And so here's how we do it. We were talking to a fellow earlier. I realize not everybody knows who we are or what we do, so I'll spend a little bit of time here. So when we have a write operation going from a virtual machine through the hypervisor to storage, we simply replicate it at the time that it happens. So we're not in path. We actually hear it and we replicate it as it's being written to the source side, it's being written to the target side. So a couple things there. We see that the bandwidth usage, doing it this way, we use a lot less bandwidth. Our customers always are telling us not as much as expected bandwidth is being used with your product because the virtual replication appliances, we put one per host in your cluster. So we actually scale with your cluster. You're able to scale up however big you want. And we scale with you. And the VRAs, the virtual replication appliances, are responsible for the VMs that are on that host. And they can do bidirectional replication. So it could be both the source and the target. And along with the replication, that's one thing. We have a 14-day point-in-time journal. Because we're doing continuous data replication, it's every few seconds. It's like in the seconds. So a lot of you have played with the product, worked with the product, have it in production. You know that I just saw a Twitter stream this morning. Somebody was talking about, they had a picture of their RPO and it was 9 seconds. And this is production workloads. And they're very happy by that. So we see customers that achieve very low RPOs. And because of the other piece here of doing completely non-disruptive testing, you're able to do failover testing in production with no impact to production. Same thing with the install. So you can install this in production with no impact to production, so we're a disruptive technology in the industry, but we're completely non-disruptive to your production environment. And that's where we have a lot of our proofs of concepts go from. The only difference between a proof of concept and production is they change the license out. Because once it's up and running, they don't really want to tear down something that's already protecting their data. Okay? So this can be set up in a completely bidirectional, multi-site. The whole federation thing of going with the cloud continuity platform, this could be not just on-premise, it could be this plus one of the sites, or both the sites could be going to AWS, one could be going to a managed service provider. It's really up to you how you want to design your infrastructure. Okay. One of the most important things we have, I think, is our virtual protection groups, because they collect together the consistency groups of VMs that you need to move together or protect together. There's a lot going on inside those virtual protection groups. We can put whatever hierarchy we want as far as the boot order. We can change the IP addressing. But within the virtual protection group itself, we have a relationship between the virtual machines in that virtual protection group. So I said we have a 14-day point-in-time journal. So if I go back 12 days ago at 6 p.m., all of these virtual machines in this protection group wake up at the same time, consistent with each other. Okay? So it's a very important thing that they know what's happening when they wake up, no matter when I restore them. And so I will collect those together after I've built my sites, which takes all of usually 30 minutes to get Zerto installed non-disruptively. Then I can pair my sites and start creating the virtual protection groups. And then I can put them in whatever order I want to recover. So I can recover my data center, I can migrate. There's a lot of things I can do once I have collected together the virtual machines, no matter where they are. Doesn't matter what storage device they're on, doesn't matter what host they're running on. We don't care. We don't cause you to move it. We don't cause you to have a data relocation project. After you put your DR solution in place, it shouldn't impact your production design. I've got these VMs on this speed of storage because it's for functionality in production. I don't want to have to add in the metric of factoring in DR to storage design. You don't have to with us. It's just a virtual, collect them together, and then put them in a group, and then they recover all together. This is what it looks like, the 14-day point-in-time journal. I know you can't read this, but this is in increments of like 5 seconds or so. It's a journal entry. It's a checkpoint. And I can select any of these from the journal. I can select the virtual protection group that I want to recover, and then I can recover it to that point in time. It's like a DVR rewinding back to when things were better. So I wanted to throw this slide in because this is going to AWS. So with the whole concept of cloud continuity and federating and everything, one of our guiding principles is keeping it simple. The interface should be simple, and it is. It's the same interface regardless of whatever platform underneath it you're using. So this deployment on the production site looks exactly the same because it is exactly the same. It's running the VMware environment. I put my manager, put the VRAs. I just run a single instance in AWS, and then the data flow here would be replicating to the ZCA, which is the Zerto Cloud Appliance, and then the data is stored in S3. So the only thing running in AWS is a single instance until I do a failover test or until I do an actual failover. So once again, it's very efficient and it's non-disruptive to your environment. Okay, so what's new? This is a tattoo, by the way. We're in beta right now of 4.5. There's a lot of features. One of them that I wanted to highlight was the journal file level recovery. Essentially, you're going to be able to pull a VM or a file out of those VPGs and recover to a point in time. So it's going to give you another option where you don't have to recover the entire virtual protection group. I can reach in and grab a file if I need to from that point in time. The other is one thing that's the reason why I put this on here is because this one's a personal thing I've been working on. We announced last year a Gold partnership with HPE. And the first thing that we did with them was, anyone familiar with the HP operations orchestration, HPOO? I see some heads nodding. Okay, so up until a few months ago, I had no idea what it was. It sounded cool. But when we started our partnership with HP, it started with the OO team. And the reason why I bring this up is because automation and making things easier is part of what we want to do too. So leveraging our APIs, you can use the HPE Studio. You can click a tab and you can pull down a Zerto content package that fully automates disaster recovery testing. The whole process is, you can run it on a schedule, because it's an IT automation tool. It's object-oriented. You just drop it in, and it can do orchestration. And so we created the first content package, and what it does is it allows you to, just on a schedule, fully automate disaster recovery testing, and then at the conclusion of it, it sends you an email whether it was successful or not. So it's completely automated. We're adding in more content packages this year, which will further advance this whole automation idea of going between these different systems. You know, part of that is making things as easy as possible, and what could be easier than fully automating certain tasks that traditionally have not been the most fun things in the world to do. Even though we allow you to do it non-disruptively in the middle of the day, you can still hit SLAs by fully automating the disaster recovery testing. So I wanted to highlight that one. All right, so to conclude here, we're virtual aware, enterprise class, software only, and we're storage and hypervisor agnostic, okay? And remember, knowledge is power. Okay, so that's it for me. Any questions?
Some of what you said reminded me of what the cover point does. Have you ever compare and contrast yourself with the cover point?
No, I've never heard of that product before. No. Actually, to be less snarky about it.
No, be snarky.
Okay. So the of course, recovery point's hardware, correct?
Some editions are not, but
some editions. Okay, let's talk about real production. It's hardware, right? We're completely software, and I think you'll see between the software and the orchestration pieces. Keep in mind the orchestration, in my mind, we do incredible replication. You see the RPOs are just amazing, but to get the RTOs down to, we have customers that know they can fail over their entire data center in 30 minutes. It's because of the orchestration. So this last piece about automating that orchestration even helps even more, but putting those virtual protection groups together and having the integration of being able to automate the failover testing and the failover itself is significant, substantial. So when you start comparing us against a lot of different solutions, including that one, our orchestration piece is a remarkable, puts us ahead in so many ways because you're only dealing with one tool. And that's the whole thing about the cloud continuity platform idea is one interface, and I'm doing all this stuff across different platforms. So hopefully that answers it. Any other questions? All right, I give you 1 minute, 35 seconds back. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.